Hello? If you're wondering how to make a dice game in Python using functions and classes, and you have clicked on the correct video. If you just want to copy the code and mess with it, I'll scroll down real quick. There you go. You can get all that. But if you want to go over everything, then stick around just a second. So first off, we're going to start off with just creating a basic function. Now you can create a function in just 2 lines of code. Every function starts off with the define keyword and then the name of your function. So we're just going to call ours my function because it belongs to me. So you need your name, then you need a set of round parentheses and then a colon. And then you can say whatever you want your function to do. So I want mine to print a single word. So that's a complete function. But right now it's not going to activate unless you call upon it. So you call your functions by just saying the name. So I'll say my function. I'll spell it correctly. And then the parentheses. So now this is going to call the function and it's going to print a word. So we can pull up the terminal. The terminal is here and we're going to hit Control F5. And it's going to do exactly what we expected to do, print that one word. Now, these functions have parentheses for a reason, and that's because we can pass it variables. So if we want to pass this function a variable, we have to put it in the parentheses. And then we're going to print whatever our message is going to be, and then we can define what our message is going to be. So we're going to say, we're going to make a variable called word, and it's going to be a string. And that word is going to be boof. So now, when we call our function later, we can pass it that variable that we created, word. So this contains the string boof, and this is our message. The message is going to be printed. So if we bring up our terminal and hit Control F5, guess what happens? The exact same thing, we print the word boof. So now, because we're passing it a variable instead of hard coding it, we could even add a little bit of user input. So let's say string input, give me a word. And so now this is going to ask you for a word and then it's going to print it. So let's see what happens here. Hit Control F5. Give me a word just like we would expect. And we're going to say boof. Now we're going to say doof. And it's going to print the word we give it. Very nice. Now, let's say we want something from our function. Something a little more than just printing a simple message. We want it to add 2 numbers together, maybe. So we're going to make a new function. We're going to define it. We're going to say this is called addition. And in this function, we're going to add 2 numbers. We're going to say 2 plus 2 equals 4. And then we're going to call this function addition. Or what is this going to do? It's going to add 2 numbers together. And that's it. It's not going to print anything. It's not going to give you anything. Because it doesn't work that way. Let's try print addition. Is this going to do anything? Let's find out. Let's hit Control F5. No. It says none. And that's because for our function to return any sort of value, we have to use the keyword return. So if we return 2 plus 2 and then try this again, hit Control F5, it'll say 4. So it returns that variable when we use the keyword return. Very important. Anything you want to use outside of the function, you gotta return it. So now let's go create a class. So every class starts with the keyword class. Very fancy. And then after you say that, you can name your class anything you want. So we can say my class. We can say Miss Spraggan's class. Or we could just say table. And I'm going to call it table. And then after we give our class a name, every class begins with a function called init. Now this is a built-in Python function, so it has 2 underscores before and after. Then it has parentheses, and in the parentheses, they always start with a self variable that refers to the table. It has all the information about the table in this variable. But we also want to make another variable called legs, because these tables are going to keep track of how many legs they have. So then we can add our colon. We're going to say self.legs. This is a new variable inside of self called legs. We're going to say equals legs, and this lets us tell the table how many legs it has. So this, our class is constructed, built. But if we want to make an instance of our class, we have to give it a name. So our first table, his name is going to be table1. We're going to say he equals table, and then 4, and that 4 legs, this 4 represents how many legs it has. That's that. So we're telling this table he has 4 legs, and his name is table1. And then we can prove that this table has 4 legs by saying print, making an f string. This table has curly bracket table1 dot legs. This table has table1 dot legs. Now if we run this, hit Control F5, we can see he will say he has 4 legs. And we could change this all around. We can see he has 8 legs. We can change his name. We can say his name is now dinner table. But we also got to change this right here to dinner table dot legs. And if we run this, you'll say this table has 8 legs. Now we can also add functions to classes. So we're going to define a new function. We're going to say leg count to tell us how many legs it has. And we're going to pass it the variable self, because self contains all the information about itself. And then we're going to say print f parentheses I have self.legs legs. And then we can create a couple tables. So we're going to say dinner table again equals table, and he has 12 legs. And then we got kids table equals table, and he has 4 legs. So we can capitalize that and call dinner table dot leg count and kids table dot leg count. Hit Control F5 on that, and you can see these tables have done a very good job at keeping track of how many legs they have. So that is functions and classes. Alright, so the first step to making a game with random numbers is to import the random module so we can actually generate random numbers. Okay, so now we're going to create a class called die. So remember, we need that class keyword, the name of our class, a colon. Then we need to run the initialization functions. That's underscore underscore init underscore underscore, the self keyword, and then we want a variable called sides so we can determine how many sides die has, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, whatever we want. So we're going to say self dot sides equals sides, that it knows to keep track of itself. We're going to come back to this a second later to make a function, but now we need a while loop to contain all of the game's logic. So we're going to say rolling equals true, and then while rolling. So until rolling equals false, we're going to come through here. Now the first thing we want to do is ask the player if they even want to play. So we're going to make a variable called play equals string input, and then we're going to say, do you want to play? Simple. And then if we want to be nice, we can add a little y/n yes or no option. And then we're going to add a second bit of logic. We're going to say if play equals yes, then continue, else then we stop. Then we need our colon, and then we're going to say else. We're going to print okay then. and say rolling equals true, so we break out of the loop if they don't want to play. I mean rolling equals false. All of our game code is going to go right here. So the first thing we want to do is ask the player how many sides each die is going to have. We're going to make another variable called sides equals, and this is going to be an integer, not a string. So we're going to specify int. Then we're going to say how many sides on each die. And now that we know how many sides each die is going to have, we can create our die. So we're going to create two die, die 1 and die 2. So each die is going to be a die, and we're going to pass it sides, number of sides it needs to create itself. So now we have two die. We have no way of generating random numbers or adding those numbers together. So we're going to make a couple functions. We're going to make one function inside the die class, and we're going to call this function roll. We're going to pass it the self variable so it knows how many sides it has, and then we're going to return a random number. So random dot rand int. It's going to generate a random number between 1 and self dot sides. So that's going to be our die rolling. And then we need another function outside of the class called roll die. This doesn't need any information about anything. This is going to act on its own and return it's going to return one number. It's going to return both die added together. So we're going to go die1 dot roll plus die2 dot roll. So now we have functions that generate a random number, adds those numbers together, and returns a score. So we want two scores. We want a human score and a computer score. So they're both going to equal roll die. So we're going to say human score equals roll die, and computer score equals roll die. And now just to test it out, we can print those scores. Print human score, print computer score. Okay, so this is going to ask us if we want to play. It's going to ask us how many sides the die should have, and it's going to print two scores when we run this. So let's pull up the terminal, see if it does everything we say it does. We're going to hit Control F5. Do I want to play? Yeah, sure. How many sides on each die? 24. And then it prints our two scores. So I won that game of die against him. That's very good for me. Okay, so now we're just going to finish up the game. Add just a little bit more logic. So we're going to say if human score greater than computer score, then print you won. Make this computer a sore loser. Else if, oh yeah, it's ELI if human score is less than computer score, print yes, I won. Very boastful. Else the only other condition is a tie. So we're going to say print and just make it simple. Tie. And then we need to know if you want to play again, because there's always the option to play again. Play equals string input. You want to play again? And then this is our completed dice game. We need an equal sign right there. This is our completed dice game using classes and functions. Let's run this one last time. Then hit Control F5. Do I want to play? Yes. How many sides on each die? 12. Ah, I lost. Okay, I won. Do I want to play again? No. Okay, and then it ends. does everything we want it to do. Hopefully that's what you're looking for by watching this video. So, have a good day.